The silence in my apartment was comfortable, a contrast to the buzz of my recent college graduation. Economics books lay scattered around, a testament to the journey I'd just completed. I was lost in thought about my future when my phone broke the silence, displaying Linda's name. I expected a casual chat, as usual. "Hey, Linda, what's going on?" I said, expecting to hear about her day or some new recipe she tried. "Eva," Linda's voice was a mix of panic and despair. "Your dad, he's kicked me out. He's marrying someone else, some young girl. I don't know what to do." I bolted upright. "What the hell? He did what? That's insane." "I'm serious. He just told me and..." "I'm lost, Eva. I need your help." Rage bubbled inside me. "This is unbelievable. He can't just throw you out. Stay right where you are. I'm coming over. We're going to sort this mess out." I hung up, my mind racing. Linda had been more than a stepmom. She'd been my rock since Mom passed away when I was just 7. She listened to me, cared for me, even dealt with my teenage tantrums. And Dad? How could he do this to her? To us? I grabbed my keys and jacket, storming out of the apartment. The drive over was a blur, my mind replaying every warm moment Linda and I shared, contrasted sharply against the cold betrayal of my father. Pulling up to the house, I saw Linda sitting on the porch, a picture of misery. Her eyes were red from crying, her hands trembling. "Eva," she said weakly as I approached, "I don't know where to go." I sat beside her, my anger simmering. "This is total crap, Linda. Dad's lost his mind. You've been nothing but amazing to us. How dare he treat you like this?" "I thought we were happy," she whispered. "I thought we had a good life together." "Well, he's clearly delusional," I said, gritting my teeth. "You don't deserve this. We'll fight this, Linda. I won't let him get away with it." We stood up, determination in our steps. "Let's go inside," I said, "we need to plan our next move." "And Dad? He's going to have to answer to me." Linda and I entered the living room to find my father, Richard, lounging with a young woman. My heart sank and my blood boiled as I recognized her, Rachel, the queen bee of my high school bullies. "What the hell is going on here, Dad?" I demanded, my voice sharp, trying to control the anger bubbling inside me. Richard looked up, unfazed. "Eva, this is Rachel, my fiancée, you remember her, don't you?" Rachel stood up, smirking. "Oh, Eva, still the little mouse from high school? How quaint." My fists clenched. "Linda is devastated because of you, Dad." Richard shrugged, annoyance flickering in his eyes. "People change, Eva. Linda and I are done. That's life." Linda's voice quivered as she spoke. "Was I just a chapter in your life, Richard? Was our marriage nothing to you?" Rachel's laugh was sharp and cold. "Drama, drama, drama. He's moved on. Maybe you should too." I stepped forward, my anger reaching its peak. "How dare you? Dad, she's a venomous snake. She made my life a living hell, and now you're marrying her." Richard stood up, his voice stern. "Enough, Eva. Your schoolyard squabbles don't matter. I've made my choice." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Your choice? You're destroying everything for a fling with a high school bully." Rachel sneered. "Jealous much? Once we're married, I'll make sure your father sees you for the nuisance you are." Furious, I retorted, "You think you can scare me? I'm not that scared little girl anymore. This isn't over." Grabbing Linda's hand, I stormed out of the room, my head spinning with rage and disbelief. In the guest room, Linda broke down, and I held her, promising that I wouldn't let them get away with this. "Richard will pay for this," I whispered to myself. "They both will." The sense of betrayal was overwhelming. Not only had my father turned his back on Linda, but he'd also chosen the one person who tormented me through my childhood. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a personal attack. The atmosphere in the dining room was thick with tension as we all sat down for dinner. The table was set impeccably, a stark contrast to the turmoil bubbling under the surface. Richard and Rachel sat at one end, chatting and laughing as if nothing was amiss. Linda and I sat opposite them, our plates untouched. I broke the silence, unable to contain my frustration. So, Dad, is this how you treat the woman who stood by you for 20 years? Toss her aside like she's nothing? Richard, sipping his wine nonchalantly, replied, Eva, life's about moving forward. I'm doing what makes me happy. Rachel chimed in, her voice dripping with disdain. Oh, come on, Linda. You had your time. Now it's my turn. Linda, her voice barely above a whisper, said, I loved you, Richard. I gave you everything. Richard shrugged. And I appreciate it, but it's time for a change. I slammed my hand on the table. This is just cruel. You're acting like heartless monsters. Rachel smirked. Aww. Is someone upset? Can't handle the truth? I glared at her. The truth? You're a homewrecker, Rachel. And you, Dad, you're a spineless traitor. Richard's face hardened. Watch your mouth, Eva. I won't tolerate disrespect in my house. Linda stood up, her hands trembling. Your house. I made this house a home for us, for Eva. And this is how you repay me. Rachel laughed. Please, you're just embarrassing yourself. Richard deserves someone young, vibrant, not a sad, old. I cut her off, fury boiling inside me. Shut up, Rachel. Just shut up. You have no idea what family means, what loyalty is. Richard stood up, pointing a finger at me. Enough, Eva. I won't be spoken to like that in my own home. You either respect my decisions or you leave. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. Respect? There's nothing respectable about what you're doing. You've lost my respect, Dad. After the disastrous dinner, Linda and I retreated to the guest room, the only place in the house that felt somewhat safe. We were both emotionally drained, but sleep was the last thing on our minds. As I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process everything, there was a soft knock on the door. I opened it to find Rachel standing there, a smug look plastered across her face. Can't sleep, Eva? Guilty conscience, she taunted. I clenched my jaw. What do you want, Rachel? She stepped closer, her voice slow and menacing. I just wanted to make sure you understand the new order of things. Your dad's mine now, and soon, everything he owns will be too. I stood my ground, despite the churning in my stomach. You think you can just waltz in and take over? You're delusional. Rachel laughed, her eyes glinting with malice. Delusional? Honey, I'm being practical. And just so you know, once I'm the lady of this house, I'll make sure your father cuts you off. No more daddy's money, no more cushy life. Her words stung, but I refused to show any weakness. You think you can scare me? I've dealt with worse than you. Rachel leaned in, her breath foul with the scent of wine. Oh, I remember how easy it was to make you cry in school. Guess some things never change. But let me give you a little advice. Take your precious Linda and get out before things get ugly. I felt a surge of anger. You don't scare me, Rachel. You're just a bully, and bullies are cowards at heart. Rachel's eyes narrowed. We'll see about that. Just remember, I always get what I want. And right now, I want you gone. You're alone in this, Eva. Your dad's on my side, and soon, everyone else will be too. Linda finally spoke up, her voice quivering but strong. Eva's not alone. I'm with her. And we won't let you destroy this family. Rachel turned to Linda, her expression one of mock pity. Still playing the devoted wife? Wake up, Linda. Richard doesn't want you anymore. You're just a sad, leftover relic of his past. I stepped between them, anger boiling over. Enough, Rachel. You've said your piece, now get out. We don't need your venom here. Rachel smirked, undeterred. Just remember, I always get what I want. And right now, I want you and your precious Linda out of the way. With that, she turned and left, her laughter echoing in the hallway. I closed the door, my heart pounding in my chest. Her threat hung in the air like a dark cloud. This was more than a family dispute, it was a battle for our future, our dignity. Linda and I sat back down, the weight of Rachel's words settling over us. We can't let her win, Eva, Linda said, her voice resolute. I nodded, my resolve hardening. We won't. We'll fight back, and we'll protect what's ours. She's not going to get away with this. The morning sun did little to lighten the mood as Linda and I began the daunting task of packing her belongings. Each item we wrapped seemed to hold a memory, a piece of a life that was being unceremoniously dismantled. As I folded some of Linda's clothes, I couldn't help but let out a bitter laugh. Can you believe this? Years of memories, just stuffed into boxes like they're nothing. Linda, holding a photo frame, sighed deeply. It's hard, Eva. This was my life, our life. And now, it's just fading away. The sound of footsteps alerted us to Rachel's arrival. She leaned against the doorway, a smug smile on her face. Aw, packing up already? How efficient. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I glared at her, my hands balling into fists. You're loving this, aren't you? Kicking a woman out of her home? Rachel shrugged, her eyes cold. It's not personal, Eva. It's just how the game is played. And I always play to win. Linda placed the frame in the box, her voice trembling. This was my home, Rachel. How can you be so cruel? Rachel's laugh was harsh. Cruel? Please. I'm just taking what's mine. Besides, it's time for some fresh air around here. Out with the old, in with the new, right? I stepped forward, anger surging through me. This isn't a game, Rachel. You're destroying people's lives. Rachel's gaze was unflinching. Life's tough, honey. Better learn to deal with it. And honestly, it's better for everyone if you and Linda just disappear. Make things easier for your dad and me. I moved closer to her, my voice low and fierce. You may think you've won, but this isn't over. We won't just disappear and let you destroy everything we care about. Rachel smirked, unfazed. Big words, Eva, but that's all they are. Words. Face it, you've lost. Now, hurry up with the packing. I have plans for this room. With that, she turned and left, her laughter echoing behind her. Together, we continued packing, each item a symbol of the past but also a motivation for the fight ahead. Rachel might think she's won, but I wasn't going to let her have the last laugh. After the grueling task of packing, Linda and I found solace at my grandmother Margaret's house, the mother of my dead mom. It was a quaint, modest home, filled with the warmth that was starkly missing from my father's mansion. As we settled in, my grandmother, a spry and sharp-witted woman in her 70s, poured us some tea. Eva, Linda, tell me everything, she said, her eyes sharp with concern. I recounted the events, my words laced with anger and frustration. As I spoke, Grandma Margaret's expression turned from concern to a steely resolve. Richard has lost his mind, I concluded, slamming my cup on the table a little harder than I intended. Grandma Margaret nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. That man has always been a fool, but this is a new low. Linda, her voice weary, added, I just can't believe he'd do this to us, Margaret. Grandma Margaret reached across the table, patting Linda's hand. Now, we're not going to let this Rachel person win. I've got a plan. I leaned in, curious. A plan? What are you thinking, Grandma? She smiled, a glint of mischief in her eyes. Well, it's high time Richard learned a lesson. He forgets who actually owns that big house of his. Linda and I exchanged a confused glance. What do you mean, owns the house? I asked. Grandma Margaret chuckled. Oh, my dear, that house, along with a significant portion of the family business, is in my name. Richard was just managing it for me. But now, I think it's time for a change. I sat up straighter, realization dawning on me. You mean, you can kick him out? Exactly, she said, her smile widening. And that's not all. I've been thinking it's time for the younger generation to take over the business. Eva, how would you feel about running the family company? I was taken aback. Me? Run the company? Linda squeezed my hand. Eva, you can do this. You're smart, capable. You just graduated top of your class in economics. Grandma Margaret nodded. It's settled then. We'll call a family meeting this weekend. Richard and his little girlfriend won't know what hit them. As we began to plan, I felt a sense of purpose ignite within me. Grandma Margaret's plan was bold, but it was just what we needed. It was time to take a stand, to reclaim our dignity and our family's legacy. This weekend, Richard and Rachel would learn they had messed with the wrong family. The atmosphere at Grandma Margaret's house was electric with unspoken tensions as we gathered for the family dinner. Father and Rachel, smirking with false confidence, were seated across from me, Linda, and Grandma. The modest setting of Grandma's dining room was a stark contrast to the lavishness they were accustomed to. Grandma Margaret, with a composed and steely demeanor, initiated the conversation. Thank you all for coming. Tonight, I need to discuss some crucial changes concerning our family and its business affairs. Father, always eager to assert his authority, interjected confidently, of course, Margaret. What strategic shifts are you contemplating? Without missing a beat, Grandma's voice cut through the air, clear and authoritative. To begin with, Richard, it seems you've neglected to remember the legal ownership of your current residence. It's under my name. Confusion and disbelief shadowed Father's face. What are you insinuating, Margaret? Grandma leaned forward, her eyes piercing. Simply put, I am utterly appalled by your treatment of Linda and your current escapades. Hence, I am revoking your privilege to reside in that house. Father's voice was a mix of disbelief and desperation. You can't do that, Margaret. That's my home. It was never truly yours, Grandma retorted sharply. Furthermore, I am removing you from your position at the helm of our family business. The room seemed to spin for Richard. Rachel, her earlier smugness evaporating, looked utterly aghast. And who, pray tell, will assume this monumental responsibility? Father managed to choke out. Grandma's gaze shifted to me, her expression softening. Eva will take over. She's demonstrated the acumen and integrity necessary for such a role. A surge of pride and determination rushed through me. Rachel scoffed, her voice laced with venom. This is ludicrous. Eva? She's incapable of managing a business of such magnitude. I faced her squarely, my resolve unshaking. Your underestimation of me is your folly, Rachel. I am far removed from the intimidated schoolgirl you once knew. Father, flustered and scrambling, protested, Margaret, this is absurd. Eva's just a young woman. Yet she possesses a wisdom and maturity that you evidently lack, Grandma countered firmly. Rachel, standing abruptly, her chair clattering behind her, sneered. This is preposterous. Richard, we're leaving. They can't possibly enforce this farce. Father looked helplessly torn between his mother-in-law and the defiant Rachel. Margaret, reconsider, please. Grandma stood up, her decision irrevocable. My decision stands. Eva, you have my unwavering support. Richard, make alternative living arrangements. As they left, Rachel spat out venomously, "You're a foolish old woman, living in the past." Father, now isolated and defeated, followed her out. Rachel paused at the door, realization dawning upon her. "You're nothing without your mother's money, Richard." "I won't waste my time on a penniless man," she declared, before storming out, leaving father behind. "I watched the one who bullied me at school and felt satisfied. She got her way, and I will make sure that this story becomes known to all my friends." The morning at Grandma Margaret's had a different feel, charged with the energy of change. Linda and I, over coffee in the kitchen, were discussing the future. "Eva, we're at a crossroads," Linda said, her voice steady despite the shadows of recent events. "It's all changing, isn't it?" I nodded, feeling the mantle of responsibility settle on my shoulders. "It sure is. Running the company, it's a big deal, but I'm up for it. We need to set things right." Grandma came in, her presence always bringing clarity. "Morning, ladies. Ready to turn the page and start this new chapter?" I smiled, despite the nerves. "Ready as I'll ever be. We've got a lot to sort out." Our planning was cut short by a knock. There stood father, his usual confidence gone, replaced by a look of desperation. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice betraying his anxiety. I hesitated but let him in. The atmosphere tensed as he sat down. "I'm sorry," he began, his eyes not quite meeting ours. "I messed up. I see that now." Linda's response was calm but icy. "Sorry doesn't quite cover it, Richard. You've hurt us deeply." I faced him squarely. "You let us down, Dad. Chose her over your own family. That's not something you can just apologize away." He looked down, accepting the truth in my words. "I've lost everything. I was wrong, and I'm sorry. I just want to make things right." Grandma's voice was firm. "Apologies are a start, but what matters now is how you move forward." I took a deep breath, knowing what needed to be said. "Forgiveness, that's going to take time. A lot of time. The company is in my hands now, and things are going to change." Richard's face showed a flicker of hope, but I stood firm. "This doesn't mean things go back to how they were. Linda's filing for divorce. And for me, well, I can't just let you back into my life. Not now, maybe not for a long time." Richard nodded, a man defeated by his own choices, and left quietly. Turning back to Linda and Grandma, I felt a surge of determination. We've got work to do. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to make things right. For us, for the company. Linda smiled, a mix of sadness and resolve in her eyes. "I'm with you, Eva. It's time for new beginnings." Grandma nodded in agreement. "You're both strong women. We'll get through this, make a better future. It's time to show what we're made of." As we sat down to plan our next steps, I felt the strength of our united front. We were entering uncharted territory, but together, we were unstoppable. This was more than a fresh start for the business, it was a new beginning for our family, built on our terms, our strength, and our resolve.